All right, class, settle in. Today, we're going to go on a little journey through time to really understand the story of artificial intelligence. Now, you might be looking at this title slide and thinking, wait, it says machine learning, but you said AI. Well, that's exactly the point. To really get why machine learning is such a big deal today, we have to go back and understand the bigger dream that it came from.
So let's start with the big question that's going to frame our whole lesson today. How did we get here? Seriously, think about it. How did this idea of a thinking machine, something that felt like it belonged in a sci-fi movie, become a real thing that's sitting right there in your pocket?
To figure that out, we've got to rewind. Way, way back. Back to a time when artificial intelligence wasn't some app or a product you could buy. It was just this incredible idea, this dream, cooking in the minds of a few really brilliant people.
Okay, let's get into it. Two moments back in the 1950s really planted the seeds for everything that came later. First up, 1950. A guy named Alan Turing comes up with his famous Turing test. The idea was pretty wild but simple. Could a computer chat with you so convincingly that you couldn't tell if it was a person or a machine? It gave everyone a goal to shoot for. Then, just 6 years later, the whole field gets its name. A bunch of smart people get together for a summer workshop at Dartmouth, and they officially coin the term artificial intelligence. Bam! Now it's a real field with a real mission. So once that foundation was set, the whole field just exploded with excitement. I mean, this era was so optimistic, so jam-packed with big ideas and even bigger predictions that people now call it the first AI summer. So for about 2 decades, from the mid-50s to the mid-70s, the energy was just electric. You had researchers and even the general public totally believing that AI was on the brink of solving some of the world's biggest problems. Money was pouring in, labs were buzzing, it felt like the future was right around the corner. And if you want to know what that optimism felt like, just look at this quote. This is from Marvin Minsky, one of the founders of the MIT AI Lab. Within a generation, the problem will substantially be solved. I mean, talk about confidence. Now, as we all know, he was a little off. But it tells you everything you need to know about the incredible hope that was driving everyone forward.
And this wasn't just talk, you guys. They were building some really cool stuff. There was a robot named Shaky that could actually look around a room and figure out how to move around and do simple tasks. Then there was Eliza, this early chatbot that acted like a therapist. It was simple, but people were amazed at how human-like it felt. And you had things like Blocks World, which was kind of like a little video game where an AI could learn to stack blocks based on commands you gave it in plain English.
But you know how summer doesn't last forever, right? Well, after all that sunshine and optimism of the AI summer, a long, cold winter was about to hit. Progress started to slow down, those big promises weren't being met, and a real chill settled over the whole field. So yeah, the big question is, what happened? Why did all that incredible energy and momentum just grind to a halt?
Well, here's the deal. There was this huge gap between what was promised and what was actually possible. See, the early approach was good for simple, clean problems, like stacking blocks in a virtual world. But the real world, it's messy, it's complicated. As soon as you added more variables, the systems just broke. They promised human-like conversations, but the computers back then had less power than your watch does today. And they dreamed of limitless potential, but they were starving for the one thing AI needs more than anything else: data.
And when you don't deliver on those big promises, well, the money goes away. People lost confidence, the government and companies stopped writing checks, and for years, progress just crawled. The AI winter was here to stay. But winter doesn't last forever. Things started to change around the mid-1990s. The ice started to thaw thanks to a completely different revolution that was happening in computing and information. It really came down to a recipe that needed 2 key ingredients that just weren't available before. First, computers got ridiculously powerful. We're talking exponentially more powerful, and storage got super cheap. All that computing power they were missing in the 70s, we had it now. And second, the world was suddenly flooded with data. This, right here, is where machine learning really starts to take center stage.
So where did all this data come from? Well, you're using one of the biggest sources right now. The internet became this gigantic library of text, pictures, and videos. And then came smartphones, putting a little data-creating machine in everybody's pocket. All of a sudden, instead of trying to handwrite millions of rules for an AI, we could just feed it a mountain of data and let it figure out the patterns on its own.
And that brings us right up to today. With those two ingredients finally in the mix, massive computing power and big data, AI finally busted out of the research lab and became part of, well, pretty much everything. I can almost guarantee that you've used AI powered by machine learning a bunch of times today and probably didn't even notice. You ever talked to a chatbot, seen a self-driving car, ever been approved for a loan, or even just gotten a piece of mail with personalized ads? That's it. That's a machine learning system working quietly in the background of your life. And it's wild when you stop and think about how far we've come. We went from that clunky robot, shaky, trying its best not to bump into a big wooden block, to AI that's seamlessly navigating our financial markets, our roads, and our conversations. What a leap. But, and this is a really big but, with all of this incredible power, with AI now touching every part of our world, comes a brand new and super important challenge for every single one of us. See, the cutting edge of AI research isn't just about making things bigger or faster anymore. It's about making them responsible. There's this whole new field of study focused on making sure the AI we build is fair, that it's reliable, and crucially, that it doesn't just learn and amplify all the biases that we humans already have. And that's the big question I want to leave you all with today. For decades, the goal was simple: make machines intelligent. Now that we're actually getting pretty good at that, we've got a new, maybe even harder problem to solve. As AI gets smarter and smarter, how do we make sure it also gets wise? Something to think about. Class dismissed.